Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. I needed to upgrade to a new laptop for university, leaving me with the dilemma of what to do with my old broken one. Despite its good overall condition, an unfortunate incident occurred when a shelf toppled onto it, causing the screen to shatter. I decided to have it repaired and sell it since it was still capable of handling daily tasks effectively. During a family meeting, I mentioned my plan to sell the laptop, which prompted an entitled aunt to interject. "Entitled aunt, if you're selling it, why don't you give it to my kid instead?" Me: "I'm not sure. Would you be willing to pay for it? I can offer you a family discount, considering it's for your child." Entitled aunt: "But didn't you say the screen is broken? I won't pay for something that's broken for my kid." Me: "Alright, what if you cover the cost of fixing it? Then you can keep it." I thought it was a great compromise, considering it was for my cousin. I didn't want to profit from my family, and I knew my cousin would benefit from using it for years to come. Entitled aunt agreed, and I proceeded to have it repaired. However, the mistake I made was paying for the repairs myself. My aunt had promised to reimburse me once everything was fixed and back to its original state. Fast forward a few weeks, just before the new school year, I successfully fixed the laptop. I carefully packed it in its original box, along with the charger and relevant documents. After formatting it, the laptop looked brand new and ready for its next user. When I approached EA to collect the reimbursement, I realized I had left the laptop in the car. I asked her to pay me back approximately $300 for the screen replacement, but she flatly refused. Entitled aunt: "You said you'd give it for free." Me: "No, that's not what I said. I clearly mentioned that I would give it to you if you covered the cost of the screen replacement. I went ahead and repaired it entirely for your convenience." Entitled aunt: "Yes, but we're family. You're horrible for asking me for money. It's for your cousin. Besides, it has those ugly stickers on it. It looks awful." My cousin actually liked the stickers and asked me to leave them on. Me: "Fine, then you're not getting it. I apologize." She became furious, but fortunately, I had left the laptop in the car. Otherwise, she might have snatched it away and kicked me out of her house. I feel sorry for my cousin because they genuinely need a computer, but after covering the repair cost out of my own pocket, I don't want to give it away for free. I'd rather sell it and recoup the repair expenses, along with a little extra. The money will contribute to my university funding and any necessary expenses. It feels impolite, but I believe it's the best course of action. A few months later, I managed to sell the laptop. However, when the entitled aunt discovered this, she became extremely angry and started spreading rumors among other relatives, accusing me of denying them a computer for their child's education. Being related to this woman is truly challenging. Hello everyone, long time no see. Sorry for not posting a pest control story in a while. I knew some of you enjoyed them. It isn't that I haven't experienced anything weird. I do almost every week. I'm just an out of sight, out of mind kind of person when it comes to Reddit. Anyway, here is my story of an entitled parent I won't be forgetting anytime soon. Background: I've explained it before, but if you don't know me, or if you haven't read my 2 other parts on this forum, I work in pest control. I've now worked in it for about 3 years. As I mentioned earlier, I regularly see and meet crazy, entitled, and even dangerous people. I don't say this to scare anyone away. I think it's a wonderful job that comes with a lot of freedom, and you actually 9 times out of 10 meet nice and just worried people. I can agree that since I work in it, I've gotten used to coming home to people with bedbugs, mice, or ants in their living room. So sometimes I have to remind myself that what they are experiencing is a first for them, and the millionth time for me, depending on if I have had lunch yet or not. Winking face. So yes, we sometimes come off as a bit cold to a situation, but that's because from the point we come through the door, we try to think of the best way to help. And no, I don't mind if your house or apartment is a bit messy. Working in crime scene cleanup is a part of my job, so believe me, I've seen worse. Oh, also, I'm Swedish, so sorry for any spelling or grammar mistakes. Story. So I got an order to go and help a lady in her mid-40s with what she believed to be some sort of wood-boring beetle, very common in Europe if you have bad ventilation or if the temperature inside fluctuates a lot. Since she's seen a lot of markings on her furniture, when I got there I introduced myself to her, and she seemed nice, a bit worried perhaps, but nothing out of the ordinary. She told me her story, and I just nodded along. She then took me to her living room where her 5 to 6-year-old sat glaring at his iPad. The living room, despite its large size, felt very cramped because all walls were covered with shelves, and all the shelves were covered with stuff. She took me toward the coffee table and pointed to it. "See?" she asked, almost hissing. "There they are, ruining my table. I guess I have to throw it out, and I just bought it. Now who will pay for this?" I was shocked. This lady really went from 0 to 100 in less than a breath. I got closer to the table to have a look. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't really see what you're talking about." "Do you mean these scratch marks?" I asked, confused. "Those aren't scratch marks," she yelled. I could see her eyes filling with tears. "And I have similar markings here on the wall, on the window, and on the fridge in the kitchen." I noticed that she had gotten flustered, but I really couldn't understand why. So I asked her if I could look around and maybe piece it together. Yes, I'll be in the bedroom. Just yell later, and I'll come," she muttered, waving her hand at me and walking off. Weird, I thought, but I was eager to see if I could find a solution to her problems. I went through almost the entire house, but couldn't find a single thing. All the markings she had pointed out had very good reasons behind them, in my opinion. So I called her out from her bedroom. "Hey Karen, I went through your house and looked at all the things you pointed out. I can say that if it were a common wood-boring beetle, it wouldn't create marks in concrete, glass, or even the steel from the fridge." This was apparently code for, "Let's start acting like a child," because the second I stopped talking, she started bawling her eyes out and screaming at me, her child still in the living room next to us. Now, I handle a lot of strange and, yes, silly people almost every day, but one thing I don't tolerate is someone screaming in my face. "Listen here, ma'am," I started in a strong voice. "The chips from the concrete are from when someone hung a painting. The markings on the glass are from someone scratching it. The floor looks that way because that's how hardwood floors look after someone has repeatedly walked in high heels. Your table looks like that because it's old and has been used, and your stainless steel refrigerator got that marking after what looks like a BB gun." I'm extra proud of that last statement. You could just see the child on the sofa try to hide behind the iPad more and more. This prompted her to suddenly fall to the floor. For a split second, I actually thought she had collapsed or fainted, until she started kicking and screaming into the floor. Now I know how the floor got those markings, I thought, trying not to giggle, as I was afraid that Karenzilla would come for me next. That is when the husband came in. I didn't even know he was home. "Hey, do you think it could be mold in the air that's causing the damage?" he asked, not even acknowledging his own wife lying on the ground kicking and screaming. "I doubt it," I said, noticing he was much calmer and more collected to talk to. "Come to think of it now, they looked a lot like Mandy's parents from young Sheldon. It's just old-fashioned wear and tear." "Oh, okay. Well, thanks for stopping by," he said while giving me the best handshake I've ever gotten. No kidding. His hands were huge. So I left, not knowing what the heck I did, not knowing if they ever accepted that it wasn't a pest that had attacked their furniture, and not knowing how to explain this one to my boss. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. I want to start off by saying that I work in a hospital, so due to this, and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, I will be altering the names of all the characters in our little play. With that being said, I work security for a hospital in the town I live in. Let's call it Loserton, home of the Kenterville Wild Canadians. I know, it's weird. We are contracted out by our employer to the local hospitals. Usually we have 3 shifts, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., and my shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day. During my shift, we usually have homeless individuals come in saying they are hurt, but in reality, they just want some sleep in the rooms. This is actually all right, except because of COVID-19, the nursing staff is not having it. This is not as important because our main player, Karen the old hag, or Ko, always comes in on the ambulance. Basically, whenever she comes in, she stays for about 3 hours, gets discharged, and then sits in the waiting room. We are always called to escort her off, and it always ends up with the police being called on her. She always has the same excuse: I can't walk, I do not have kneecaps. You try walking without kneecaps. This goes on and on. To be fair to Ko, she does walk with a cane. However, we always remind her that she did just walk from her bed to the waiting room, and that nursing staff was walking with her to make sure she did not fall. Whenever she feels like she is going to lose her battle, she will throw her cane at anyone close to her, and throw herself on the ground. Mind you, this lady is like 87 years old, and she acts more like a child than my 3-year-old niece. During the night, we had a hold for a patient who was prone to hurting themselves. We just sit outside the room to make sure they do not either hurt themselves or make a run for it. It's policy that involuntary holds cannot leave until our mental health team finds them a bed anywhere. We always alternate every 2 hours to make sure none of us get burned out. Plus we have these things called posts where we are supposed to be for 2 hours anyway. Ko came in on the ambulance as per her usual. Mind you, it is raining heavily, so when the ambulance picked her up, she was soaked from head to toe. According to the nurses, she was also very drunk. Ko plus alcohol equals 1000% Krabby Pants Ultra Godzilla. Once she gets into her room, Glenda the good nurse, might as well go all out here, walks in, gets vitals, and asks what happened. The emergency room technician, Bob the Builder, starts to get her the scrubs you get issued to change into. Ko throws a fit. She yells at the nurses because Bob the Builder is male, and she claims that earlier that night she was assaulted, so she does not want any male persons near her. Understandable. They oblige. The only problem is now she is falling back on her "I have no kneecaps" excuse, so she does not have to wear her scrubs. Great, let's just stay naked and let the entire emergency room see you, lady. Midway through the shift, our newer officer called over the radio for us to come into the emergency room for a disruptive patient. We had no idea that Ko was in the hospital until old guy and I walked back there. We walked to the monitor technician, who has been working in healthcare for like 60 years, Mrs. Nancy. She looks at us with the "I'm gonna lose my patients, y'all better stop me" look. Old guy says, "What is going on, Mrs. Nancy?" And then we heard it. "I am not putting on my clothes because I can't. I can't bend my knees." "Ko, you have to put your clothes on." "No, are you going to put them on me?" "I do not want you touching me." Old guy and I just looked at each other, rolled our eyes, and sighed heavily. He went to talk to her, and I stayed outside the room providing cover. I talked to the nurses and found out what had happened. I thought nothing of it, so I waited until old guy was done talking to her. Once he was done, Mrs. Nancy wanted us to walk around the emergency room every 30 minutes or so. Shift is almost over, and it is now my turn to sit on the hold. I'm about 3 beds down when she starts screaming and hollering once she got the discharge paperwork. This is basically the emergency room stating, "We have done everything and diagnosed, and we recommend that you are stable enough to go home." Well, Ko was not having any of this. I get on the radio and call for the rest of the officers to come back to the emergency room. They walk up to me, ask what is going on, and all I do is point to the room she is in and say, "Might need to handle that." Sure enough, she decided she was not leaving and threw her cane at Glenda the good nurse. Because this happened, policy dictates that when a patient strikes a staff member, local law enforcement is called. Not a minute goes by, and 4 squad cars pull up, lights and sirens blaring. This was funny to me because they just casually walk in like, "Hey guys, heard y'all needed us." Once they heard her screaming, Officer Bigby looks at the staff and just asks, "Is that Ko?" "Yup, you gotta be kidding me." He proceeds to rip open the curtain and, at the top of his lungs, "Ko, get out before you go to jail." Ko is not budging. She argues back and forth with the officer about how she was assaulted, how she cannot walk, how she cannot bend her knees, and how she cannot get her pants on. They even gave her the option to put the gown on. Officer Bigby, by the way, nonchalantly states, Ko, I saw you walking not 6 hours ago. Why are you like this? Ko says, you are a darn liar. Fun fact, you can call cops a lot of different things. I know because I used to be a deputy in the other K-state. Pig, jerk, coward, baby killer. We can take it in stride. But you do not call us liars and think you are about to win an argument. So you are telling me that my body camera, the dash cam, and the rear dash on my patrol vehicle are lying? No, that is not what I am saying. I am saying you are a liar. She was told that she has been discharged, and if she refused to leave, she would be charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct. It took all of 30 seconds for all 4 officers to go into that room and handcuff her, and place that gown on her body for transport. They threw all her belongings into bags, and she was escorted outside. Old guy came and relieved me from my post, and as I walked by the ambulance entrance doors, I could see the cops laughing and talking about their next post while she was in the back of the squad car with her head down, mouthing to herself. Honestly, as many times as we have to deal with her, it is nice when she leaves. It gets really silent at night, and that is the way we like it. I found out later that the next shift she was going to be released in 48 hours, but they are working on a warrant for repeated trespassing and harassment of hospital employees. I work with a company that times races, including running, cycling, and triathlons. The owner, a man named John, works at Race Timing Company. Both names are fictitious. During a race, some equipment was stolen. This equipment is not only expensive but also highly specialized. Only about 200 people in the United States use this system. Each component costs around $1,000. Making the total loss approximately $4,000 USD. About a month later, the stolen equipment surfaced on eBay. John contacted the seller via eBay, asking for the return of his stolen equipment. The seller was uncooperative and dismissive, saying, "There's no way you know it's your equipment." However, photo number 3 clearly showed one of the boxes with a printed label on it. Race Timing Company John, owner John's phone number. It literally had John's name on it. John then escalated the issue to eBay to prevent his stolen equipment from being sold. Unfortunately, eBay mishandled the situation. They believed the seller's story that he had purchased the equipment at a mail auction for lost mail. This explanation was dubious, especially since the seller was located in the same town where the equipment was stolen. The seller also claimed that John had no way of proving the equipment was his, despite it having John's name and phone number on it. With no concrete evidence that the seller hadn't bought the equipment at a mail auction, eBay ruled against John. John devised a plan. He decided to purchase his own stolen equipment back using an employee's name and requested it be shipped via the United States Postal Service, USPS. He was conveniently located near a post office. Here's where the clever revenge comes into play. It is a felony to knowingly traffic stolen items. John waited patiently as the equipment was marked shipped and eventually arrived at his coworker's house in another state. For good measure, John then contacted the Postal Inspection Service. He provided the seller's full name, address, and proof that the seller knew the equipment was stolen. He had police reports, pictures of his name on the equipment, matching serial numbers, and transcripts of his communication with the seller informing him that the equipment was stolen. 2 days later, USPS inspectors knocked on the seller's door and reportedly found numerous stolen items. The seller was charged with almost a dozen federal felonies, including felony theft, trafficking stolen goods across state lines, and lying to federal agents. To top it off, John filed a stolen goods complaint with eBay, now armed with substantial proof that he had been sold stolen goods. As a result, he got his money back, minus the shipping costs. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.